All right, guys. So we're on another podcast here with some highbrow conversations about talking about patents and just getting another opportunity to share with my audience. Right, a lot of people that we're helping develop and bring products to life, helping them better understand the development process. Part of which is patenting and protecting your idea. I'm here today with a good friend and preferred partner, Derek Fahey from the Plus IP Group, and his partner, Mark. And yeah, just an opportunity just to hang out, nothing crazy. We just want to have a couple shots.
Let's start
it's happy hour, and
this is good, man. Well, thanks for having us. Really appreciate it, Mark. Great.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank God it's Friday.
Are you guys familiar with liquid death?
Yes. Water.
Yes.
Water,
It's
right?
water.
But
That's
if you look at the
brilliant
can,
marketing. Yeah, some of the guys have some, man.
the can looks like the
Can you grab it?
coolest.
Cool.
Like it's like the coolest badass, like the most badass beer can. It looks like, and kids drink it, and
How
they
much
think
is
they're
it?
so cool.
I see it every time I see
Like
it.
a
I'm like,
buck.
No way.
Yeah, if you buy like a 6-pack,
Okay,
it'll be like
really?
$6. Yeah.
Yeah.
There it is.
It's such a cool looking can.
There's
like,
a whole, interestingly enough, there's a whole bunch of different, by the way, what a
So
great
cool.
brand, because it had liquid death has nothing to do with water, right?
Right.
So that's why it's such a strong brand. But someone was telling me recently that there's a whole new market now where you have people that are developing like names that have that are just like the exact opposite of what they are. So you may have like a Cosmo or some like really fruity drink that has this like Rage Against the Machine, Cosmopolitan, or something like that. It's a whole new branding play for like energy drinks. I don't know, kind of cool. But the branding on this is
Probably makes it easier to
unbelievable.
sell to men as well. If it's like
Yeah, man.
Rage Against the Machine, Cosmopolitan, and a can
Exactly.
versus
It's like White Claw.
Yes, dude, White Claw, which just the product itself is kind of foofy, like for a guy
It's a
to
wine
drink.
cooler.
But
Seltzer,
they package
seltzer
it up
wine.
in like a cool sounding name, right?
Yeah. And then they have like ranch water.
What is that?
What? You never heard of ranch water?
Nah.
So ranch water basically is tequila and soda
Okay.
in a can, and they're like playing on the whole like. You ever watch Yellowstone with Kevin Costner?
No.
What?
Nah.
Dude, this is
Oh,
probably
you're
his best
playing on
role.
that.
Yes.
Speaking of-
So you're watching Yellowstone,
That makes a lot of
and
sense.
you're just sort of see like all these ranch water commercials. These guys are like, hey, drinking ranch water on the ranch, and they're just killing it.
And it's just tequila and
It's
soda.
just tequila and soda, and they're selling it on Yellowstone,
Cheers, guys.
Cheers to Dirty
Thank you
Patent.
man. Thank you so much
Cheers.
for making it to our studio and having this conversation and just catching up.
Okay, cool.
I haven't had a chance to meet Mark very much, and want to take this opportunity to kind of chat more about how you guys, started working together, what kind of stuff you like to do, because at the end of the day, I want, the people that go on here and check out the preferred partners list to get to know you guys a little bit. That's kind of like a first introduction to a person, instead of me just telling, hey, just call this guy.
Right.
Or call whoever you want on here. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Pick who you want to call. It lets them kind of have a little, you know what I'm saying? I'll be able to get a glimpse of who you guys are first before they call you. You know?
Yeah.
So, so how long have you guys been working together, man?
How long has it been now?
10 years. About that. Yeah.
Before I was going to say 8, 9. but-
I actually have a very vivid
Kind of
memory.
lost track.
Yeah. I have a very vivid memory of how we met, because it was a bit different. But why don't you tell how you got into IP law too? Because I think
sure.
we started.
Yeah, so I was previously like a software engineer. So I was a professional software engineer in programming, and then I ended up going to law school, and then I worked at the patent office, and then I went to private practice after that. And I still develop software today. I'm a tinkerer. Mostly like messing around on Raspberry Pis, right? I'm sure you guys were.
Yeah.
Guys. But I do it for fun now, not professionally.
Mm-hmm.
And so Derek and I, we do all types of patent and trademark work. The one type that I do a lot of, just because I'm a programmer, is a lot software related.
Okay.
So I do a lot of patent work for like mobile apps, networking, more recently crypto, which is really big right now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I spend a lot of my time. Yeah. Until like
When are we back again?
Yeah.
When are we back again? What's one piece of advice that you guys could give? I'll let you guys both give your own piece of advice to somebody that's thinking about partnering with somebody, because that adds a whole nother layer of decision making. Like if you have your own company, then you call the shots. You don't have to ask nobody's permission. So I'm just what has helped you guys maybe keep things running nice and smoothly, and how do you guys manage that stuff?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is that you want to make sure if you're a partner with someone that you guys have like a very similar vision. Like, where do you want to take this thing? What do you really want to do?
Yeah.
So that's one thing. Another thing is, like how do you live your lives, right? It's difficult to be like a 50% partner with someone who like works 24 hours a day. When the other person is more of like, hey, I've got all these extracurricular activities and sports that I like to do. Because then one person's gonna be working more than the other.
A little resentment there.
Like, hey, this is resentment, exactly. So you want to make sure that like you're kind of aligned, you're similar in certain ways, and we have a lot of similarities. We're both third culture kids, right? So our parents are immigrants, right? But we were born and raised here in the United States.
I was born in Trinidad, just FYI.
Right,
I'm
okay.
a Trini, true.
Oh, really?
Yeah, to the bone. Yeah. And the reason why is like when you come as an immigrant, you have to adapt.
Yeah.
So like when I moved here when I was 11, I showed up to school and nobody talked like me. I was just like, everything was different. So you just have to adapt like super fast.
Yeah.
So it would happen like overnight. I've developed an American accent overnight.
Wow.
And then
So you're faking right now the whole
The
time.
whole
You're
time.
thinking
For the
in Trinidad, me going to drink this whole
30
beer.
years.
Look at that, we've been working together for like 10 years, dude, or some shit like that. I did not know that, bro.
Little Boney.
Bro, dude.
Really?
Trust me, I did not know that.
Well.
I would have gone to the next guy. Who's this guy?
Oh, that's funny. Well.
Nah, man, really good to have you guys here, man. I think this is, this is fun. This is supposed to be fun and informative, and like I'm learning about shit that I didn't know.
Yeah,
Crazy,
crazy,
really
right?
cool.
So, off of Mark's point, I think to have a great partnership, you gotta date. You gotta, just like marriage. You can't like be like, we're gonna become partners, man, right away. Expect it. It does happen. You become great partners for life. I think you gotta have like a dating period.
Yeah.
You guys match. You guys align.
Yeah.
Like,
No, it makes sense.
Because
And when you even quote dated some of the other people that you have on your list.
Oh shit! Oh shit!
We won't name them.
Nobody to name right now. Nobody we're gonna name here.
Well, maybe after a couple of shots.
Yeah.
We'll get there. I haven't had entirely enough to drink before I start.
You know the beautiful thing, the beautiful thing about it, man, is that like you're telling me, you have a specialty. You can do other stuff, but you kind of have that niche. So you have your specialty. So it's like, I kind of try to look at this as like not so much as competition as like, hey, I got shit that I'm better at. Like it's easier for you to do that, and you do it with more passion if it's something that you just can, you can understand and just
for sure, man. And to Mark's credit, for software, he trained me on the software, and what I think is really important to mention, and he highlighted it briefly, but he's a software engineer, but also he actually works at the patent office examining software patent applications, right? So, if you're developing software applications, software patent applications, and building software, you don't want to go to somebody that doesn't know anything about software. So something to think about.
This is really good to know, man, because look, Lime Design started out by basically just making, look, when you start a company, actually, I'm gonna hit on something. I'm gonna come back to this and ask you about like when you started your company.
Okay.
Like, when you start a company, right? Like you have like, you don't start with the most complicated products. You start small, right? I didn't I started Lime Design, like it took me like 3 times. Something I want to tell all entrepreneurs out there is that when you're trying to start a new business, it doesn't always happen off the rip, off the first time that you try to set up that business. A lot of times you know, like for me, it was between jobs. I was, you know, I'd have a job that I loved and, you know, did my best to excel at. And, you know, I did that for 5 years. And then between jobs, I started my own thing. And it always seemed like something like, oh, then I got another job offer and I took that. And then that kind of took me off course a little bit. But I always kept coming back to it. And I think it took like 3 or 4 times before I was actually able to, you know, get my place, get all my equipment in place, hire a couple people, and like really like take it off the ground. My question is, did you just like on your first shot, that's you just went right at it?
My experience is a bit different. So I left a law firm rather abruptly for a couple different reasons. And honestly, if it wasn't for being forced into that position where I had to basically decide, okay, do I want to look for another job or for somebody else, or do I want to do my own thing? That's when I just made the decision. At the time, I was in a position where my expenses were low, so I just was able to say to myself, okay, well, I could just do this on my own, and that's kind of how I started off. And luckily, my expenses were low, which I think is key for small businesses to keep their expenses low in the beginning, so you generate some revenue. So yeah, that was my experience.
Yeah, I mean, my experience is almost identical, which is that I left a big law firm abruptly as well, and then I left with one client. And you know, at the time I was single. I didn't even have a girlfriend or a pet. Right? I was living in
plants
in a condo in South Beach. So my expenses were low, and you know, one client was enough for me to survive. And I got one more 6 months later, and it was very, very slow going. It took years, but you know, when your expenses are low like that, you don't really need to make very much to make enough to live on. And then that, you know, slowly starts to grow until you have like a full law firm. And that's a very common experience in Florida. In fact, most attorneys, if you look at the statistics, most attorneys in Florida are either solo or a duo, more than half of them. So it's a very common experience here.
Interesting, man. I was going on some other tangent here before, but I needed to hit that back on that because you know, I think other people are going to be starting their businesses, and whether it's you know, for a new product or whatever, or it's a service that they're providing. And you know, just I don't know. For me, it took me a couple attempts to actually make it stick, so to speak.
I have a random question for you. So for new designers, do you guys? Well, first off, are you guys mostly PC or Mac? And then also for like new design and art creatives, are you thinking Apple or PC, or like how does that work for you guys?
Yeah, so actually, and it's an interesting question because I mean, in almost every industrial design place that I've worked for in the past, it's usually the graphics department is on Apple, and everything else is on PC because there's too many softwares that you can't run on Apple, or you have to run it as like a virtual or whatever it is. You know. So we actually are buying our first Apple for our social media marketing manager, and you know, I'm taking that leap and starting to branch off of just a PC.
Really?
But yeah.
Mark, are you Apple guy, PC guy?
No, 100% PC.
Yeah. What about you? What's an advice for a new business? Since you're also an entrepreneur as well like yourself, what's advice you give for new entrepreneurs?
Man, try to run some numbers on what it's actually going to cost to do it. It doesn't matter what the exercise is, what the service is, or the product. You know, there's an operating expense that you're going to have. How much would you pay yourself? What's your marketing budget going to look like? You know, just to start to think it through so you can better understand what things cost once you start going to, you know, a patent attorney. I mean, you're going to need 10K plus, right? To really get shit done, right?
Yeah, I mean, you need less than that, but that's a good budget if you want to get a patent. I think a good budget is $10,000 for a boutique firm like our firm, a good budget.
And because it's not just, you know, because you have the meetings, you have your patent searches, I mean, there's so many other things that you guys do that need to get done to properly get somebody protection on their product. So I like to tell my clients that they should expect at least a 10K expense, and not all at once. It's you know, in smaller steps, but that that's something they should keep in mind, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
for the marketing, something I learned, man, is that most people fail because they don't market their stuff right. You know, like they just don't understand, you know, that it costs, you know, $5,000 or $2,000 in pay-per-click a month, and you multiply that by 12, and then you multiply the people that are managing that, and then if you have a storefront, whatever it is, you know.
Right, yeah.
And so,
What's your take on social media for like consumable products? How do you think it's changed the industry? I mean, you know.
I think it's just created like a more level playing field, so to speak, for the average person. Where before you have to make like a professional video to be on TV, and that costs $50K, and now somebody can go with their own phone or pay somebody $500 or $1,000 to make a badass video, and they can be in front of, you know, 50,000 people, millions of people. What am I talking about?
Yeah.
Right. Technically, millions or billions of people if you can market it right.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I think it's amazing for our industry, just for innovators and creators.
Yeah,
so.
it's a great equalizer, man.
Yeah.
You know, and then now all the software that's like making it easier to make cooler video and stuff, and it's getting scary with all this AI stuff, man. Like,
oh man, yeah, it's cool.
I mean,
Hey, speaking of which, have you used DALL-E yet?
I use something similar, Midjourney.
Oh yeah, and it creates
you basically
images on the fly.
Yeah, there's going to be a plethora of softwares
Okay.
that kind of like niche down on that stuff I see.
Yeah.
So just so everybody knows, what's DALL-E?
It's a software where you can basically say, I want to see a picture of a fisherman on the sea.
In the DALL-E experience.
Yeah, and then you could, there's different ones where, you know, it's not DALL-E stylistic. It's anything. You tell it what style you want to see it in. I actually got to cancel my subscription to Inventors. It's like $30 a month. I don't know. I haven't been using it, but actually, I take that back. I'm gonna figure out how to, because I feel like we need to be able to incorporate that better in what, you know, and be able, as a tool, to be able to provide a better service to the clients. Similar to,
I tell all my clients about it because copyrighted images, and then you get these like bogus letters about copyright infringement that everybody hates. I mean, it's basically like legal extortion,
That's
right?
legal shakedown.
Yeah, it's a legal shakedown, right? Well, you know, that happens to people because they mistakenly use images that belong to someone else that has been copyrighted. Well, like an easy way around that is to create your own images. But that takes time and money, right? But with DALL-E now, you need an image of a mouse on a car, boom, 2 seconds, you've got one.
It's a weird time. I feel like it's almost scary as for a designer. It's almost kind of scary too. And I know that those tools can get you close to what you need, but we're not there yet, right?
Yeah.
Where it's going to replace designers, but you can basically get a rendering that. I mean, it's a scary time.
Yeah,
we don't know what's going to happen from that.
Yeah, I actually think I was listening to a podcast recently. They were talking about that, and they were saying these are you know, extremely knowledgeable people. They were saying that it can be scary, but you could also think about it this way, like, you know, a lot of people are not going to know how to use DALL-E, right? They're going to have to. It's going to be the person who wants to learn how to do it. So that's not going to be. Those people aren't going to know how to do that. They'd be doing the same tools you're using now. So it's just like another tool that's your repertoire to make it easy for your job, because you still have to figure out how to use it. So like if someone they want to spend $3 a month, they want to like figure out how to do it properly and to make it cool and add shading and lighting. So what they were saying, these smart people on the podcast, is that how yes, it's going to shake up different things, but it's just like another tool in your toolbox that you can like create some cool art. You know? So I don't know, just because I'm sure I haven't really used the software that much, but I'm guessing, is it kind of like you kind of like form your own style kind of?
I have set up on this computer.
It's super simple.
Yeah.
You just type in a sentence.
And then it pulls it up.
Like I typed in something like a skateboarder on a ramp in a black and white style. In 2 seconds, it just created a photo.
It's pretty awesome.
It just pulls from everything it's seen before, and it's crazy because designers, we're a combination of everything that we've seen before.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I saw this mechanism and this one thing over here. I saw this cool shape for something over there. It works well for this.
And then you put it all together, right?
It's doing the exact same thing, but it can't yet understand, like, you know, true engineering. It's just giving you a visual of it. But it's a powerful tool to help get that visual, to get that, to get started quicker, be able to have more options.
Yeah.
Now, it's also going to create like what do they call it? Like selection paralysis or whatever it's called, where if you have too many options,
Yeah.
like you just don't, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
So I think it could also create that, but
Now,
I
here's
don't know. It's
the
gonna-
question. So DALL-E is a good proof of concept, and it works for still images, right? I mean, the logical next step is that it's going to start doing videos, right? And then wouldn't another logical next step be that it's going to be able to do, like three-dimensional 3D files and CAD files? It seems like that would be a logical next step.
It could.
And then you'd be out of a job.
I could. So I just opened up a new business, guys. Legacy Kitchen and Bath Plus. It's right in front of Lime Design. I'm prepared for the future.
I mean, it applies to everything, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's in lawyers, right?
They'll be able to write patent applications eventually.
Yeah.
It seems like.
I don't know, man.
I
I
mean,
thought
there's
blockchain
another
would
one.
I thought blockchain would get you rid of you guys a long time ago.
Oh, yeah.
Well, no,
Funny
there's
enough,
another one.
blockchain's brought up so much more stuff for us to do because we've gotten blockchain patents, several blockchain patents for our clients.
But I'm
So
saying that just the technology in general, like where, they say like, you can like put an idea in and it spits something out for you or let you know if, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like,
also just to talk about to get into the geek side of patent laws, that's where we're like experts like us come in, right? So you probably could draft a patent application yourself and like really get a protection on a patent.
Yeah.
But the problem with that protection is it's not going to be broad enough to protect you actually in practice. You can get a bad patent. That's not difficult in certain areas to get a really crappy patent that's worth nothing.
Yeah.
But do you want a patent that actually you can enforce and stop other people from using your invention?
Yeah.
That's where you come to guys like us, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So since we're here to give advice, right?
Mhm,
And
yeah.
to talk about, what we do and whatnot, what advice, because you brought it up there, what advice do you give to an inventor that wants to write his own patent? Deep breath, sir.
Yeah. I just say, look, I typically will tell them what, where I'm at and how I learned to draft patents. I'll tell them that, hey, I'm an engineer. I went to law school. I've been doing this for 11 years. They make you take a separate bar exam to become a patent attorney, right? All these reasons, or those are just the facts of why I think you don't want to do it yourself, unless you've drafted it, unless you have 100 patents you've done yourself, because it is so specialized that it's very difficult for someone that's going to, an inventor that's going to want to do themselves. We see it, and typically it doesn't end well. Mark?
Yeah, it's super difficult to do. So I usually tell people, there's a lot of books out there that show you how to do that yourself. There's only one I've ever seen that is any good. It's called Patent It Yourself.
I think I have that.
Their book is
Yeah.
800, close to 1,000 pages. It's this thick. It's like a textbook. I mean, my feeling is, hey man, if you want to read that thing and do it yourself, like,
More
more
power
power
to
to do. But
Yeah.
most people just don't have the time and
Yeah.
inclination to do
Yeah.
that.
No, that brings up a good point, man. It's like, if I need to change my roof, I can do my roof myself. If I
Yeah.
really want to get up there in the sun and rip that roof off
And
make
learn
a
how
new
to do
one,
it.
yeah, and do it correctly, and and hopefully do it right the first time, right? Because else it's going to cost
You
you
only
twice
get one
as much.
shot. You only get one shot.
Oh, that's the other thing right there, right?
Yeah. So another thing is if you file a patent application, you mess it up, you may actually ruin your rights. You may actually disclose your invention improperly, and you may get a patent that's too narrow, and then your great invention is wasted because now everybody knows your invention.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
yeah.
I got another one, man.
Okay.
Sometimes I have clients that want me to sign an NDA. That I'm using this as a legal hour here. Hello. But I have clients that sometimes want me to sign an NDA that's like an open NDA. Like there's no description of anything. Is there any issue with that? Is there? How does what I'm saying?
An NDA. You're right. So the whole point of it is you're agreeing to keep something confidential, right? If there's no description of what you're keeping confidential, then what do you turn to define what you were supposed to keep confidential?
Right.
Then you get into, well, this guy says that you talked about this in the meeting, and someone else is like, no, we talked about this. And then you get back to like a he said, she said situation. And the whole point of having a contract is to avoid that.
Right.
Right? It's so that you just look at the four corners of the document and it defines exactly what you're supposed to keep confidential. So it really should have the specifics in there. Like for example, someone shows up and they have like some blueprints. You can say, okay, I agree to keep whatever was in the blueprints confidential. But to just say, yeah, whatever we talk about is gonna be confidential, then now you're back to
Like everything, every single thing would have to be documented somehow, right? I mean,
that ideally, yeah.
I mean, it's just weird, man. I don't know. And actually, I was going to say that I lost this client, but I didn't lose the client. That client lost the privilege to work with me on this project because, I mean, basically, he wanted to give me he wanted to make a blank NDA and say, hey, well, no, I want to work on a bunch of different things together.
Right.
And I was like, man, well, like, you know, my IP firms have always advised that we put a description of what we're going to be discussing,
exactly.
so that it's properly documented.
Right.
And you know, sometimes it's better to, you know, unfortunately, because I wanted to help them, but
Yeah. So for us, it's a little easier because you know when people ask us to sign NDAs, which I do sign NDAs, but everything when you talk to your attorney, anything you talk about is privileged.
Yeah.
So we're bound by attorney-client privilege. So if we actually disclose the information, we'd be barred or disbarred. So it's obviously not what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
And also, just practically speaking, you know, we're in the business of helping people get patents, and you know, why would we want to put that information out there that we're like taking people's ideas or disclosing information? And that's kind of what I say about people like you is, listen, they're going to sign an NDA, but put some specifics in there. So if you're developing a, sunglass stopper or sunglass float device, put that in there. You know, try to be as specific as possible without actually saying what the invention is. Some people will say like, well, if I tell you the idea, you know, if I put it on there, you're going to know exactly what it is. What I would say to that is still put something on there, but you also have to trust the people that you work with. Yeah. And you have to, the person that you're working with, you have to feel comfortable with them. And at the end of the day, if someone wants to take your idea and, you know, do it illegally, they're probably going to do it. So you just have to have the confidence that you trust the person and you're going to be partnering with the person that you want to work with.
I like that.
Yep, lawyers are bound by, there's two different items. One of them is attorney-client privilege, which protects anything that you discuss for the purpose of legal advice. So if you were my client and you came to me for advice about an invention, anything related to that invention we would have to keep secret. But then there's another item, which is attorney-client confidentiality, which covers everything we discuss. So if you come to me, talk about this invention, and you happen to tell me about your mistress, I got to keep that secret too, even though it had nothing to do with the legal advice. So it's anything you discuss with your attorney is covered under confidentiality.
So I don't have those same. It's not the same with an average company, I guess.
Yeah.
But, you know, like you guys, it's an extra layer of protection for of privacy, right?
When someone comes to you, what regulates the relationship would be the agreement.
Right.
But when someone comes to a Florida bar attorney, you're protected by the law.
Yeah.
In addition to any agreement you might also have.
And for you, I would think you're telling, at least I tell my clients that, hey, if you're working with somebody else, like a designer, you know, make sure you get these NDAs signed because it's important to, legally speaking, if you disclose your invention for too long, you actually could ruin your patent rights. So if they went to, you know, Rodrigo's competitor didn't have an NDA, Rodrigo's competitor could actually disclose the invention, post it on Facebook, and ruin, basically, potentially bar that the inventor would be barred from getting a patent if that content was disclosed for too long. In the US, it's 1 year, but in other countries, it's even less. Like, for example, China is 6 months, UK has like a no disclosure policy. So you gotta be the inventors have to be really careful about disclosing the invention before they file for patent applications.
Any final words here, guys, before we wrap it up? Man, I just want to, thank you guys again, man. And how do people that want to reach you guys get in touch with you?
The website, plusfirm.com.
Yep.
Yeah, website.
Yeah, we're on TikTok. We're on Instagram.
I see you working hard on the videos, man.
Yeah.
I see it.
YouTube.
Did you know that, or it's,
Of course, man.
right? Did you know that?
Yeah.
It's like, right?
Yeah.
Just type
There's
in
some really good ones
Plus
in
Firm
there.
anywhere.
Yeah, we'll
and
find
we
us.
come up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I watch the videos, man.
Cool.
There's a lot of really good content. You talk about a lot of really interesting topics. Recommend
Thanks, man.
anybody check them out.
Yeah.
What's the? Is it at Plus IP Group or?
So, I don't
Yeah,
know.
the social media.
Well, if you Google Derek Fahey YouTube, you'll find me.
All right.
And then, yeah, that's how you find it. If you, my Instagram handle is Derek, DEREK, Fahey, FAHEYPA, and Mark's is,
Mark Terry, PA.
so,
Okay,
yeah.
we'll put that on the screen.
Yeah.
So, guys, again, thank you so
Yeah,
much,
man.
man. We
Thank
got
you
it
for
this
having
weekend,
us.
man. It was a lot
Yeah.
of fun, man.
Appreciate it.
Always
know?
appreciate it, buddy.
Always a good time, man.